Hey guys, it's Graham. I'm a truck driver in Oklahoma City. I'm also an author, illustrator, and a big time reader. This is sort of my review of Storied Independent Automakers by Charles K. Hyde. I wrote up a review on Substack. The link to the stack is in the description of this book. I'm not going to review it in excessive detail here. Suffice it to say that it's really just a history of three companies: Nash, Hudson, and American Motors. All of those companies started and then went defunct in the 20th century. Charles K. Hyde is an historian that covers the Great Lakes region with a special focus on automotive history. I've covered two books of his before, but they might have gotten scrubbed in the great channel purge that I did starting off in 2025. He had a book about the Dodge brothers and then a book about Chrysler. And the one of my main takeaways from this book is just how fascinating it is that the automotive industry in general, especially up there in Michigan, really relied on a revolving talent pool of just a handful of guys, it seems, who worked and were in charge of all of the different companies, it seems, like at different times. Like this guy was in charge here, then he was the CEO over there, and he brought this idea and that idea. And the book itself it gets a little bit dry at times with the details of like they had a labor dispute here or they decided to machine this instead there. It's dry, but it's still of value, especially if for whatever reason you needed to like really delve into the details of this different time period. What did these companies do to survive? What were they threatened by? How did they get through the Depression? How did they get through World War II? What share of the manufacturing burden did they carry? What kind of contracts were they getting from the government? What were their engines going into? Like Dodge was building engines for the B-29. Nash ended up building pieces for different different airplane models and stuff. Like a lot of domestic companies like weren't producing cars for mass consumption at that time, just because pretty much everything was going to the war effort, and they played a role in that. Hyde does have a book about that. I can't remember what it's called, but it's specifically about what American automotive manufacturers did for the war effort in the 40s, and I will probably read that at some time. I would also like to read a more comprehensive history of Detroit, like what elevated it in the 1920s and onward, and then what led to its economic downfall. I have a suspicion that there are going to be theories based on what your political ideology is. If you're a capitalist, you're going to say that it was the unions. If you're unionista, you're going to say that it was the capitalists. I have a feeling that the truth is, as it usually is, just a little bit more complex than that. But Charles Hyde, now after having read three books by him, really shows an adept hand at analyzing this stuff, even when there are chapters here and there that make it a little bit boring. Overall, the subject is of interest to me. So that is an endorsement and a recommendation of all of his books. I'm glad that I read this one just to kind of, not necessarily like round out my entire American automotive knowledge. Like I don't know as much about Ford and the different General Motors banners, for example, but I really enjoyed his histories of Dodge and Chrysler, and I'm glad that I read this one to kind of fill in the cracks. In other general news, right now I'm reading, probably reading for the third time, Goliath by Scott Westerfeld. This is the third in the Leviathan series. I'm reading it so that I can be fresh for my series recap. I've read the first two in the last couple of weeks, and I'm really pleased. Like, there are a bunch of YA series that I read in my early and mid 20s that were really great at the time, and I've read a couple of them since then, and I'm like, yeah, I've outgrown this. And I generally don't read in that genre anymore, just because who's writing it has changed and who they're writing for has changed, and I've kind of drifted out of the target for that. But it's nice to go back and read some of these that were high favorites of mine at the time and see that they've aged really, really well. So once I get that one done, I'll probably finish it tomorrow. I got a couple hours left in the audio, and I'll get that video up this weekend. And then if you saw my last video, the Deus V Machina review by Dave Cullen, he jumped into the comments on that one. I did tag him in the description. I think that's how different people see it. And he emailed me and said, thanks for the review. And I'm still I'm a little bit just hesitant to ever have that experience, just in case there's an author who's not thrilled with the fact that I reviewed something honestly. Ooh, somebody lost a wheel here. But he was very cool about it, very diplomatic. I'm sure it's no author's favorite thing to get a less than stellar review of their work. Like, we all want to be just loved and praised, but he's a consummate professional, which I found not surprising at all. It's the exact same kind of tone that he brings to his channel in general, and that's why I appreciate a lot of what he does. But he also issued a correction, and so there's something I wanted to just address here in a video, and that is that I incorrectly stated that he was from Northern Ireland, and now that I think about it, I don't know where I got that impression. But he is in fact from Dublin. He is from regular Ireland. He is from classic Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, the not British part of Ireland. He is completely Irish. He was also very cool about that, which I've lived in Europe. I know people can be territorial about where they're from, but he's like, yeah, no, just small correction. I'm not from there. I'm from here. I was like, oh crap, sorry. So just a cool guy. That is why I still follow his channel, even after unfollowing several other review channels. He's just got a great sensibility, and I appreciate his taste in culture, and I want to see him continue to succeed as he has. And so that's why I boost the signal for his work, both in his book and in his videos. I think you guys should check that out. So that's what I'm reading right now. I'm also picking in and out of chapters for Witchy Eye by DJ Butler, but I'm going to be doing a much slower reread of that one, kind of a chapter at a time, and just taking notes so that I can do a more thorough analysis of that for my recap video there. And in print, I'm equally slowly going through Volume 2 of Lou L'Amour's Lost Treasures. And that's what I'm up to. And once I get that one done, I will do a video on the first and second volumes in that one. I've had the first one read and done for about a year and a half now, and it made my best of year list in 2023. But I never did a video on it just because I wanted to wait until I get the second one done, and here I am being a super procrastinator on that. But I'm still reading, got a lot going on. I'm just not hammering out a video every day for the sake of putting something out every day. I realized towards the end of December that I just don't like doing that. And I'd like my videos to be a little bit more specialized and focused. And that's why I did the book review at the beginning of this one, and I'm leaving all the rambling stuff to the end because, hey, according to the analytics, most of you guys don't watch this far. Anyway, thanks. Drive safe. See you out there.